Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Chiefs podcast by the Kansas City Star and YouTube program. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. I'm here with Star columnist Vahe Gregorian and beat writer Jesse Newell. And this is the best conversation about the Chiefs in all of sports. I'm biased, of course, but this is a great conversation. And I know it's a good conversation because I'm going to take you back to the game on Sunday night against the Chargers. Chiefs, of course, win that game 19-17, but I believe it was early in the third quarter when the Chargers had driven for a touchdown to make it 13-7. And Jesse turns to us and says, almost stifling a yawn, well, they're going to lose the lead, and then somehow they'll find a way to win. I don't believe Jesse called the doink field goal, or at least not off the left upright. But talk about knowing your team. Jesse had it pegged.
And I want to correct you, Blair. Actually, it was 13-0 at the time.
I'm sorry. It was before they had scored. They must have been driving.
And I was wrong, too. I said it's going to be 14-13 here at the start of the fourth quarter. And instead, it was like 5 minutes to go in the third quarter. So this Chiefs team has a pattern. I don't know if everybody out there has noticed it, but a pattern that seems to repeat itself week after week after week. But I'm sure we'll get to this, guys. Like the fact that they've ended up 12-1 and a couple games up in the race, and potentially a team that's played so many games here in the last few years could get the bye week and not have many games to even play after Christmas in preparation for the playoffs. That could end up being a really big thing.
Yeah, the only thing I just quick chime in with that is that basically we've watched exactly the same game for the first 59 minutes and 30 seconds every week. And then, hijinks ensue. I mean, it's just crazy. And the catalog, I got thinking about this the other day, the catalog is ever expanding somehow on those last plays. I mean, there's got to be a few ways they haven't won yet. We haven't seen the McDuffie pick six that I predicted weeks ago hasn't happened yet. That was going to be with the Bills. I guess they're saving that for the postseason. But they are coming down to precious few things that are even feasible last ways to win, because they've gone beyond our imagination, and now they're duplicating things, as Sam reminded us late the other night with the doink for a key AFC West win to in this case actually clinch the AFC West. Well,
I keep waiting for a Hail Mary. I can't remember. Someone who's better versed in Chiefs history will have to remind me if the Chiefs have ever won a game on a Hail Mary on the final play. I don't recall that. Certainly not in the time I've been covering the Chiefs and the time I've been living here. I just don't remember them winning on a final play, or losing for that matter, on a final play Hail Mary. I suspect it's happened. Somebody remind me, put in the comments for us if you can tell us the last time the Chiefs won on a Hail Mary.
By the way, to that point, Blair, as you thought about the actual other side of that, which is, the other team pulling off something like that, Sensei Jesse also, I think, kind of made the point as that field goal was going up, that at some point this is going to go the other way. And that point was pretty close as it was soaring towards that left upright.
Couple of inches, maybe.
So even though snapper James Winchester said, it was a little bit damp, it was kind of misty out there, he thought maybe that helped. You know what I mean? Maybe another day that ball hits the upright and goes, I want to come back this direction. Instead, it kind of squeaked its way through. So Mother Nature may be helping the Chiefs, the barometric pressure, whatever we want to talk about here. But yes, even going to that final field goal, guys, it was almost sort of like, well, the Chiefs found a way to do it again, but this one didn't really have the zaniness to it. This was just, Mahomes being Mahomes and coming up with a couple third down plays, and then they saved the zany for the end.
Speaking of zany, just a footnote. I wish we had a little bit of a recording of the sound in the press box in such moments, because really typically there's a good bit of decorum in there. And I wouldn't say anything was outlandish, but a friend of mine who was in town and isn't often at Chiefs games remarked that he felt he heard a lot of laughter in the press box as that happened. And I think if that was just a one-time thing, that laughter wouldn't have been really that notable. It'd be like, But I think it's a sort of cumulative thing by now, the sort of bemusement about those final plays. I mean, that's at least in my mind. I mean, I just remember kind of just shaking my head and kind of chortling and probably looked left and looked right at you guys. It was just like, okay, of course.
Yeah. So that made it 15 straight victories by one score or less. That means 8 points or fewer. The last time the Chiefs lost a game by one score or less was the Christmas Day game against the Raiders last season. And that brought their losing streak in such games to 4. They had lost their previous 4 games of one score or less. They were all last season until the Raiders game was 4, and then they started the current streak the following week with the 8-point victory over the Cincinnati Bengals.
And put another way, Blair, there's only been, so they've won 18 of their last 19. I think that, well, the math adds up. It's only 3 times in these last 18 wins that they've won by more than one score.
Right. So it was the Dolphins in the playoff game last year, and then the back-to-back games against the Saints and the 49ers this season. Crazy. And also it meant that the Chiefs clinched the AFC West. So it's their 9th straight division title. Hats and the shirts came out after the game, and Clark Hunt spoke to the media afterwards, as is his custom for the past 9 years when the Chiefs have won the division title. And so I came up with the list just to put this into perspective. The 9-year streak is the second longest in NFL history, second only to the Patriots at 11. The Chiefs, the previous week, clinched the playoff. I think it was the previous week, right, where they clinched the playoff appearance. Patriots also with 11 is the NFL record. The Chiefs now have 10 straight playoff appearances. Will have had 10 straight seasons with a playoff appearance. Cowboys and Colts with 9, so that those are third on the list. And then once we get to the postseason, the Chiefs can add to their list of longest consecutive streaks with a playoff victory. That stands at 6. It's been 6 straight years they've won at least one playoff game. That's all 6 years of Mahomes guiding the Chiefs into the playoffs. The Patriots have the record with 8. So when we think about and talk about dynasties and where this Chiefs edition stands with the great teams of all time, and I think after they won the Super Bowl last year, that pretty much was established, right? That the Chiefs are a dynasty and can join the handful of others, and at least in the Super Bowl era. But really, as they keep piling up these division playoff appearances and division titles, all the success, they are plowing through some fertile ground here, and it really is amazing. We're in the middle of it, so maybe we don't get a chance to step back and appreciate it, what we're covering and what Chiefs fans are experiencing. But Vahe, I know you tried to capture it a little bit in the column that you wrote after the game. Just listen, we've spent a lot of time in these podcasts, at least I have, discussing what's wrong with the Chiefs and why this team is so uneven this year. But my gosh, 12-1, and then adding another year to these lists, it's pretty incredible what these Chiefs are doing.
For sure, and a couple things. I think you're making a great broader point to begin with, which is we're so immersed in it. Every once in a while, it is worth just step back a little bit. Realize that there's this hideously flawed team that's going to win the Super Bowl. Or as you put it the other day, Blair, as we were joking around about this, but also just to remind ourselves of the arc of this. Like when they won that first AFC West back then, it was like that was the achievement, right? They won the AFC West, and it really did prove to be kind of a portal to what started happening, albeit in baby steps at first, right? They finally won a postseason game after that, but then they lost a couple more. And then, of course, Patrick Mahomes and everything changed. But I think another thing, I didn't quite have enough time to do the research I wanted to do late that night, but it's not just that they're making a chew toy of the AFC West. That is really a pillar and building block of where everything else goes. And they've had certainly their share of blowouts over the years over a lot of the AFC West teams, but mostly these games are the prototype of what their formula is now. They find a way to win. And I think that's not just incidental. I think that's related a little bit to kind of the culture they've cultivated and who they are more broadly, and that they always have that as the baseline.
Yep, absolutely. This is who they are. And, in addition to the superlatives that we just talked about, there's 3 Super Bowls, there's 6 straight appearances in AFC Championship games. Patrick Mahomes has never not played in an AFC Championship game as a starting quarterback. It's ridiculous, the list of achievements. And Patrick Mahomes is 29 years old. You can make a case that he is just in his prime, just in the beginning of his prime as an NFL player. And given the length of careers of other great quarterbacks, with Brady being at the top of the list, but the Joe Montanas and the John Elways and some of the others, is there an end in sight for this? I mean, the teams are going to, teams will change. Chiefs change from year to year, and this team is certainly different from the previous 2 that won Super Bowls. But as long as Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are there, I don't know. I think the Chiefs will be able to catch the Patriots on some of these lists, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, one thing. Go ahead, Jesse. I'll come back.
I was just going to speak to the point you guys are talking about, which is the good old days are now. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you're going to be looking back at as the good old days of Chiefs football. And you were talking about, you don't have to look very far. I mean, I grew up around these parts, and you mentioned John Elway in Denver. That was the obstacle the Chiefs couldn't overcome. That's why the Monday Night Football game, Joe Montana versus Elway, was such a big deal, back in '93, because it's like the Chiefs, for one moment, overtook the Broncos, and it wasn't a dynasty, but it was like an obstacle they could not overcome, and the team that they kept matching up against that they couldn't get past. And so, this is why people look around and go, how can you hate Patrick Mahomes? How can you hate Travis Kelce? These are such nice guys, all this stuff. It's like, well, think about what you thought about John Elway, 30 years ago. This is what the Chiefs are right now. They are the Elway, the Broncos of this sort of thing. And, it's just sort of fascinating to think about all these in these terms. I mean, I'm thinking back to like DiMaggio and Marilyn Monroe. I mean, like, heck, that's in Kansas City too. You got, Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift and the big romance of the world. Everybody's talking about it. It's all the magazine covers. I mean, it's pretty crazy that all that stuff is kind of centered around Kansas City right now.
And it kind of folds in nicely to a time where Chiefs president Mark Donovan has been talking about, they want to be the world's team. I mean, that's that notion, that concept started before Taylor Swift came aboard, but it really, I think what you could argue had some catalyzing energy to it. One thing I just was going to add this, and I think we all know it kind of intellectually, but it's another one of those, is that really true things? So before Patrick Mahomes, they had won 1 playoff game in 25 years, basically, or maybe it was 24.
It was less than that. It was like 93 when they got to the AFC Championship game, and then they lost 8 straight. Starting with the AFC Championship game, they lost 8 straight playoff games to tie an NFL record, and I think that stretch went for 21 or 22 years until they beat the Texans in Houston. Remember that, the 30-0 game.
Right. But
Alex Smith.
Before Patrick, so it was like 23, 24 years then. Before
that's
Patrick,
right. Well, but that's right. From the Super Bowl win in '69. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and not just that, think about this. They'd won 1 in that time frame. They'd won whatever it was, 10 total. They've won 15 postseason games in the last 6 years. I mean, to Jesse's term, it's a term I think I used something like that the other day too. These are the good old days. And they had some good old days, but that was a half century ago. This is going to be the sort of thing that's going to be hard for any franchise ever to duplicate again. And that's before we see what happens this postseason.
Yeah, and who knew that while the Patriots were putting the final touches on their dynasty, the Chiefs had already started theirs, right? If you want to date it to when Patrick Mahomes became a starter or when Andy Reid became the coach, football had never seen anything as dominant as the Patriots. And before the Patriots were finished, the Chiefs had started to embark on their run.
It is funny you say that, though. You're making me think of this. Remember that Patriots loss? And in some ways, it was just the essence of all those playoff heartbreaks with all the strange endings, the D Ford offside. Oh, yeah. But I think we all thought this that day, that was not the same thing. I mean, they needed a new defense, but that was the start of something, not the continuation of something, because of the way Patrick Mahomes played. And I don't think there was any conscious handing of a baton, and you're kind of hard pressed to make that agreement, make that case just because Brady went on to do more. But there was a little bit of that, early foundational part to it that probably you can trace in future years.
Sort of like they just ran out of time that night. Didn't lose, yeah. Right? They ran out of time during the comeback.
Speaking of which, I've got our dog Norbert shredding some newspaper. You might be able to hear it in the background, much like Brady shredded that Chiefs defense in overtime. So it's just for a little extra effect.
Well done. All right, so the next objective for the Chiefs is to get the overall number 1 seed, and as Jesse alluded to, get some rest going into the postseason. And the Chiefs were helped out in a big way by the Buffalo Bills losing to the Los Angeles Rams on Sunday before the Chiefs game. And now the Bills have to travel to the Detroit Lions and will be an underdog in that game. The Steelers, which have the same record as the Chiefs and our future Chiefs opponent, play at the Philadelphia Eagles. So things are looking kind of good for the Chiefs to get to that number 1 seed and all the rest that comes with it that they're going to need after having played 3 games in 11 days, which is the upcoming schedule. But let's dig in a little bit on some of the issues. DJ Humphries started at left tackle for the Chiefs against the Chargers, did not finish the game because of a hamstring injury. We'll see where that stands later this week when Andy Reid gives us an update on the injuries. But I don't know, Jesse. Mahomes was sacked 3 times in the first half, just 3 times for the game, but 3 times in the first half. And I don't know how much improvement I saw in pass protection, but at least the Chiefs got what it wanted. They got what they wanted. They had DJ on the field, and maybe it's just going to take him, if assuming this hamstring injury is not a big thing, it's going to take him a little time to get back into the swing of things.
I mean, that's probably the upside right now, right, Blair? I mean, Andy Reid mentioned the hamstring injury and the MRI on Monday. And again, I hate to try to read into the tea leaves of something like that, but it didn't sound like it didn't sound just, oh, no big deal. It sounded like they wanted more testing. So I think the hope for the Chiefs, I mean, if you get DJ Humphries going and he's healthy, that's going to be the worst it looks. I mean, the guy just was rushed in there. Like we talked about it last week. The Chiefs had no choice. Once Mahomes had that on-field outburst with Wanye Morris basically to say, I need someone else over there, the Chiefs had to put someone else over there. And DJ Humphries was the guy they just signed. So again, best case scenario here, that injury is not that severe and he can get through it and he'll continue to learn the offense. But yeah, I mean, you look at some of the next gen stats numbers, like the pressures allowed. I think he allowed 8 pressures on 40 pass rushes or 40 pass attempts. That's a high number. So yeah, the Chiefs are still struggling with this. Seem to find some answers, but the hurry up was one of the answers at the end of the first half. And then just some really short, quick passing game stuff later on in the second half. And we can criticize the offense if we want to for some things there that they didn't do as well, maybe giving up on the run a little bit too early against the Chargers team that had allowed some run gains. But the Chiefs had the ball 3 times in the second half, and they were productive with those possessions. And so I think we do need to keep in perspective because so many times these Chiefs, because they take so long on their drives, we think, hey, they didn't score that many points, only 19 points. The offense actually probably looked a little bit better than we would have expected just because the Chiefs play 3 or 4 fewer possessions every single game than all the other NFL teams. So it's going to be tougher to score. So it does feel like, though, that the Chiefs are really trying to navigate their way around the situation. But in the best case scenario, DJ Humphries is back and continues to grow every single week. And by the playoffs, that thing looks a lot better than it did on Sunday night.
And, assuming that, MRI isn't like a frightening implication to this and that he's back soon, I 100% agree with everything you said, Jesse. I mean, it's his first game in the year, basically. He did appear a step behind. He did whiff a couple times, but I'm sure literally a lot of that is muscle memory. But also, we've talked about this concept a lot about hesitance when you're not quite sure what you're supposed to do. Now, maybe most of the time he did know what he was supposed to do, but I saw at least twice, I think they were both on the first drive, where after the huddle, Patrick went up to him as they were going to the line of scrimmage, and DJ was kind of looking back to Patrick like, well, what am I doing here? And that's not to mock him. It's just that's how it's going to be. So I think all those combined to make it look, not great, but also, worth remembering it pretty early stages of a guy that they're kind of desperate to have succeed.
We can talk about one positive thing, guys. This would have been the storyline if they had failed. Wanya Morris had to go in for him on that last drive and did well. So I think earlier in the year, we wondered how Kingsley was going to respond. Kingsley was the guy from training camp. Kingsley had some early struggles, and then he didn't respond well. We talked about this. He had some mental issues getting in there. He completely whiffed on guys. Wanya last week, after his bad game, Sam McDowell could talk to it, our colleague here at the Star, where he stood up there I watched him interview Wanya, took every question, said he was going to come back, going to get better. And by all indications, that game, he took that to heart. He used that week to get better and was good on those limited snaps he was in. And the Chiefs drove down the field and got the field goal with the guy at left tackle that nobody trusted other than basically Wanya. So that might be the best development out of this, especially if this Humphreys thing is more severe. I hate to talk about it on a podcast like this because I'm sure we'll know the answer by Wednesday when most of these people are listening. But I do think that was a positive sign, because we have seen earlier this year when a left tackle has a failure and then hasn't responded well to it, it put the Chiefs in a bind. This one, in a small sample, they had a left tackle who had a failure and then responded well the next week. And so we'll see if they have to rely on him more down the stretch. If so, I think they'll go back to Wanya and see how he can do in that position.
And let's not forget, in addition to Humphreys not playing for almost a year, in his first game, he's going against the Chargers defense that's pretty stout, with not only with a new head coach who's brought a defensive and toughness mentality to that organization, and Jim Harbaugh, but Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa having to fend off those guys, and more of the same. Whoever's at left tackle coming this week, right?
I was going to say, go read off the Browns roster, Blair. Why don't you go do that one on the defensive end?
And then the Steelers, after a couple weeks after that, it's ridiculous the amount of defensive and edge rush talent that the Chiefs tackles have had to go up against this season. Another injury situation that needs to be discussed is Joshua Williams. The Chiefs have had not much luck at cornerback this year, keeping guys healthy. And again, that's another scenario. We don't have the full answer yet, the clear picture on Joshua Williams, but he did not come. Am I right on this? He didn't come back into the game after he left in the fourth quarter.
I'm 99% sure he didn't. Sorry, Jess, go ahead.
Yeah, Blair, we had that very interesting. The NFL kind of put us through the concussion protocol before the game and kind of talk through the procedures there. And so after having done that, I mean, I'm pretty confident that's what it was, because you look at the signs here. He goes in the tent. He doesn't return to the game. They showed him in the tunnel on the Sunday Night Football broadcast with one of the security guys, Ryan, taking his helmet away from him. And then Andy said he was doing better in the facility on Monday. So we didn't get an official concussion diagnosis, but it sounds like it is. The good news for the Chiefs is if he is doing better Monday, like Andy Reid said, that there's a chance that he would be back in Sunday's game, and this isn't the start of their short weeks where there'd be basically no chance for him to get back. But it does speak to the Chiefs and where they're at cornerback. One of the NFL Next Gen stats that is very interesting, will be one to track, is the Chiefs played 22% man coverage, according to their numbers, against the Chargers. It was the lowest mark of the season. And we know Steve Spagnuolo loves to play man, loves to press, loves to be aggressive. And there was an article earlier in the week about how the Chargers cannot figure out man coverage. Like every team needs to man them up because their receivers can't get open. The Chiefs played almost no man. And so I think you are starting to see an evolution defensively from Steve Spagnuolo with the limited pieces he has, or at least the guys he doesn't trust as much, to say, hey, I'm not going to get burned by these long passes anymore, or trusting these guys on an island. I got to play a little bit more conservative. I think it's taken the Chiefs a little bit out of what they are good at and what they normally do.
Jesse, go ahead, Blair.
No, go ahead, Vahe.
No, just this, and maybe you're going to take us on this anyway, but as you spoke about the plausibility of Joshua Williams returning or not, and because this is not yet one of the short weeks, it is a really strange stretch we're about to go through. I mean, 3 games in 10 days, or is it 11, depending on how you do the math, I guess. But that is some really wacky stuff. And I bring it up just because of the point you just made. If we were talking about a Saturday game into a Wednesday game, no chance. Maybe even a Sunday game to a Saturday game, no chance. I don't know, or less chance. But I do not expect the Chiefs to be very candid about this with us, just because it would possibly betray some strategic thoughts. But don't they have to have some load management considerations as they approach this in terms of how much everybody goes each game? And I realize you got to win, you got to play to win, but doesn't that have to affect some kind of management of these games?
I don't know. And here's the question, because now they put themselves in a position they could clinch this whole thing against Pittsburgh. So what if you just push these guys and get through this stretch and win those games, and you don't have to worry about Denver? And then all of a sudden, I mean, let's do some math here, guys. So they play the Steelers on Christmas, then they have a week and a half off, and they would play the Broncos. We don't know yet, either Saturday or Sunday, or January 4th or 5th. Potentially could get the bye week after that. So that'd be the 12th. And then potentially have their first playoff game, like the 19th? So if you can push through this and get these wins you need and clinch this thing against the Steelers, which is possible, I mean, you have a whole lot of time to rest up and do what you needed to do. But to your point, Vahe, yeah, this has got to almost be, it probably is unprecedented in NFL history to have this many games in this short a time period. So, yeah, whether that's maybe sitting Chris Jones an extra drive in the first half, or those sorts of guys, or just kind of thinking big picture to try to keep guys healthy, I don't know. But the point is that, like, these games are really important for the Chiefs. So it's going to be hard for them to just completely put their foot off the gas, especially with how they've been playing. They're not winning all these games by 30 points. They're winning them all by 2 when a kick goes off the upright. So yeah, it's a tricky thing to navigate, but I'm sure that's going to be a conversation in the Chiefs facility of exactly how to do that. The thing is, there's a light at the end of the tunnel if they can win these next 3 games, because then they can have that thing all clinched and locked up, and they can basically treat the last month of the season exactly how they want to.
Well, I'll go one better. If the Steelers and the Bills lose games in which they are underdogs this weekend, they'll each have 4 losses. If the Chiefs win their next 2, Cleveland and Texas, they'll clinch it with the Texans, or in Houston, they'll clinch it with the Texans win. The worst they could be at that point is 14-3 if they win their next 2. The Chiefs could have it clinched before Christmas Day.
How crazy would that be? I mean, that would be unbelievable for the Chiefs to have all these things happen to them in the season, and then basically have a whole month to play with at the end. Okay, you want to put Hollywood Brown in and have him tinker with Mahomes? You want to have DJ Humphries play left tackle and get integrated? Do you want to sit Mahomes for the second half? I mean, you could the world's your oyster then. And not only that, you lost your game against the Bills, so you're not chasing an undefeated season either. So it's a lot of things on the table there, but that might be a future discussion if the Chiefs continue with their voodoo magic at the end of games.
All right, let's just a couple of notes here as we exit. We spoke of the Joshua Williams injury, and the Chiefs went out and brought back Steven Nelson out of retirement. Nelson was with the Chiefs. Chiefs drafted him in 2015 in the 3rd round. Was with the Chiefs through 2018. Didn't part on the friendliest of terms, as I recall. But there's a need, and the Chiefs looking to build depth, and so they signed Steven Nelson to the practice squad, something to keep an eye on. I thought it was interesting that Justin Reed handled the kickoff duties. Andy Reid told us this week that it just wanted to get the stronger leg. I guess Matthew Wright's good enough to kick 50-yard field goals, but Justin Reed's got a little bit of a stronger leg, and the Chiefs got what they wanted out of it. And how about Nikko Remigio back? Not back. He made his NFL debut, a training camp favorite. We love our training camp favorites. Nikko Remigio did a nice job returning kicks for the Chiefs against the LA Chargers.
Bound and determined, as we noted while it was happening. Maybe a couple where you might have decided I don't really have to run this, but it's good on him.
Yeah, he gave the Chiefs some juice. I mean, that's important. Like when you're winning these games by this margin, those slight things add up. And look, McColl's fine in that role. He'll catch it. He'll get upfield. He'll do what he does. But I think Nikko played with a little bit more sense of like, this is my NFL shot. And that gave the Chiefs some life on a day when, again, they needed the small margins to go their way.
And McCole Hardman's on the IR, so we'll have Remigio returning punts and kicks for the next few weeks for the Chiefs. So, okay, great conversation, like I told you, by Vahe Gregorian and Jesse Newell. Thanks a lot, guys, and we'll do it again next week.